Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast. Coming today from under a bush in the park. No, we're not talking about cheap cider, because today we're talking about Druids. My name is Martin Mandroi, and I am your host for today. And joining me, as always, is Conor O'Brien. How are we doing, Conor?
Under a bush in the park.
Yes.
Do you know what? Depending on the day,
It may be a different.
I wouldn't say no.
Yeah, it may be podcast day is the day where Druids are a class and not a cheap alternative to something good to drink.
Yeah. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I've not a lot going on. It's weird. I think it's the calm before the storm because
Yes.
I have a lot of stuff coming up during the summer between a couple different vacations and also my wedding.
Yeah, I was gonna like the vacation. Really, that was the first thing that you said.
Well, chronologically, it's the first
Yeah,
thing
okay.
like coming up next. But yeah, I have a whole bunch of stuff, and I've like I think I mentioned it last week. I have like a month and a half where I'm basically AWOL for most of it. Between one thing or another, and I've my wedding and I've my cousin's wedding a month later, a month and a half later. Yeah, just a load of stuff this summer that I am absolutely jam packed, and this feels like the calm before the storm kind of thing. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, the last couple of moments of like peace you have before the whole summer just disappears like that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I'll be pulled every direction for a number of different reasons. But yeah,
fun reasons,
no,
though.
other than that, all good. We had D&D this week. It was interesting.
I discovered the power of the fear spell this week.
You know, yeah.
Well, no, fear
yeah,
effect more so, but yeah.
fear effect. I had the guys fighting one of the kind of lieutenant bosses of this kind of arc, named Amna the Vile, who is an Anishag who fell in with some giants, and now she kind of serves as their torturer / magic expert, I guess. And I designed her. I took the Anishag stat block and I redesigned it, and I built her from the ground up to be very fear focused because I wanted her whole thing is she loves making people miserable and scared and all that kind of stuff. She's a little bit Pennywise like in that regard.
Oh, that
So,
totally
yeah,
makes sense now with the battle arena, actually, and the way it was set up. That totally makes it. It's like the flooded basement of the house in it.
Yeah, and I wasn't quite drawing on that, but I kind of ended up overlapping for definite. Yeah. So yeah, as you guys followed her into this kind of into these under half flooded warrens under a swamp, and faced off against her, and I gave her naturally she's going to be very fear based.
Yeah.
I gave her the frightful presence ability, and a couple of people got feared. You were one. I think Wabu got feared in the first round as well.
I think so.
I think it was just the two of you didn't see her, so I think only the two of you were frightened initially. Wabu eventually overcame his fear maybe a round or two later, and you overcame your fear in what was maybe an 8-round battle. I think you overcame your fear in like the 7th round.
I overcame my fear when she died, Connor.
Were you not?
Nope.
No, you had calm emotions.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
Castle.
that was it. Yeah, like literally, probably. But I think it was probably like the round before. I forgot about the calm emotions.
It
But
was,
yeah.
it was. I think it was literally like round 7
Yeah.
of 8.
Yeah.
You became unfeared for the whole fight.
Yeah.
You couldn't get near her.
What was worse was like the one time where I like miscounted the distance and like I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw my spear because I'm in range, so I can throw the spear. I made the shot at disadvantage and then did like an obscene amount of damage with a spear throw, and then you was like, oh no, I'm not close enough. Oh no. So then like the rest of the fight where I wasn't getting to hit her with my spear, I knew roughly how much damage I should be doing per hit, and I was like, I would be so useful right now. I would be so useful right now. And like people are going unconscious and drowning while they're unconscious. I was just like, oh my god.
That was like even fear effect. Well, I suppose in the fear being a contributing factor to this, that was maybe one of the toughest fights you guys have had in the campaign, I would say, because she basically kept a number of you out of the fight or rolling at disadvantage because of the fear thing for quite a lot. I do worry that I maybe made her too powerful for the fight. But also, like, I think there's definitely an aspect that the dice were just against you guys an awful lot as well. In terms of like wisdom saves to resist the fear. It ended up being I was quite worried after it because I thought, oh, did I just make a really annoying, painful encounter to go through here? And I think that I definitely made it hard, but I feel like the annoying factor, like if you had overcome your fear in even 3 or 4 rounds in, it would have been like that was annoying, but now I'm back in it. Let's go. Um, but that wasn't the way it happened. So I feel like the dice were more the
Yeah.
contributing factor to it being an irritating fight.
Oh, I said as much. Like the map was really cool. Like the way she could move through the water was really interesting, and like how she could reposition. And then there was like she had her little minions, the like skull things that came out, and they were like cool and interesting as well. They had like different elemental abilities. I was almost more punching my mic as usual. I was almost more annoyed that like. It was more so that like because like it looked like a really cool fight, and like there was loads of opportunities for me to use like all of my abilities and stuff in it, and I was just there like, right, I can throw 4 more lightning bolts.
Yeah, at disadvantage.
At disadvantage, yeah. Oh man, like I didn't like I had my action surge left at the end of that. I had a bunch of stuff left, but like dice just weren't in it, and I also have a +1 to my wisdom saves, so it's not great.
Yeah, she has a high
I think it was like 18
save on the 17.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's based on her charisma modifier, which is also her spellcasting modifier, so it's quite high.
Yeah. So like there were literally like 4 numbers on the dice I could roll not to get fears.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, what sucks about it was that had you done it, you would have been immune to that effect for 24 hours. At that point, now here's the thing, right? I also gave her the fear spell, and I think that's where I went too far. I think her having a single fear ability is like a good idea. Me stacking it on maybe was a bit too much in that regard.
Like I know, like like to me anyway, it really didn't feel like it was like that. It was like set up in a way that it was just like beyond us, or like that it was kind of like an error in judgment or anything like that. It literally just felt like we had some very, very bad rolls and continued to have very, very bad rolls, and like it was just sometimes the dice aren't with you, and that fight they were very much not with our party, but we got it done. It done. We all lived, which is the main thing.
Yeah, and honestly came very close at one point because your dog Frost went down and very nearly got killed, only for the fact that Wabu pulled him out of the fray and kind of took his place and stood in front of him to defend him.
Yep.
I think Frost went unconscious a couple of times.
Frost dropped twice, yeah.
And Arkham, who is our warlock sorcerer, I think he started that fight with like 20 health or something. He was very low to begin with. Because I completely forgot the week beforehand. Amina was transformed into this huge flying creature with like mandibles, and had chomped down and gripped him in her jaws, and she was just continuously biting him every turn. And he's very very weak in terms of strength, so he was having a very hard time breaking free of that. So he took a lot of damage there, hence why he was on such little health when this fight started.
Yeah.
And I think he went down twice as well. I think he went down once and he got stabilized.
Yeah, I stabilized him. And then I think
a layer effect, I think, started him back on death saves again.
Yeah, and then I think and then Aerith got a health potion and then he came up, and then the heal chain again happened, where it was like, right, one person gets up, they get up, they heal the other person who's almost unconscious. Like it worked in our favor, thankfully.
Well, I think that was the turning point towards the end. Wabu was like very close to dying because he was kind of one-on-oneing her, and she's not fun to fight up close unless you have multiple people. She can do a lot of damage in melee, and Wabu was doing that. You couldn't get any closer. Arkham was unconscious, and then Aerith was like also feared. Now he was a ranged character, so he could make attacks, but at disadvantage. But eventually, I think Aerith ran a very long way, like the roundabout way through the map to get to Arkham to get him up. As soon as it was Arkham's turn, he flew over to you, cast calm emotion, so you're no longer frightened, and then you were able to get back in. But again, that was the last round. Then it got kind of hairy. Like there was a point where I was like, I got worried because I'm like, I thought I made this too hard, that this is going to end up in a TPK. But again, I did have
a flash of that at one point. Yeah, it was when we had 2 people unconscious and drowning, and I was like, right, Wabu has a little health left, and then he can do his like I'm too angry to die shtick for a little bit. but like he can just roll
And
bad.
I don't think I can kill Wabu. I don't think I'm able to.
You've
without
got
being like, oh, you walk into the chamber and see 4 red dragons. Like, I don't think I'm able to kill Wabu.
you've also got like one more level before he actually gets his like Zealot Barb. Oh, you just can't die anymore thing. Like he doesn't have that. I don't
That's
think
it. He's on 14 now. That's it.
me and him. I was talking to him about this during the week. I don't know why I'm Mr. Burnsing. But me and him were talking. Yeah, but me and him were talking about it during the week, and I thought he said he didn't have the one where he just doesn't die anymore. But I think he
he's
definitely
14
should,
level Barb, which
yeah.
is that's a capstone subclass ability.
Yeah. That's no, he definitely has it. So he's literally unkillable.
Yeah, Rage Beyond Death. Yeah, while you have 0 hit points, or having 0 hit points does not knock you unconscious. You still make death saving throws, and you suffer the normal effects of taking damage while at 0 points. However, if you would die, if you would die due to failing at death saving throws, you won't die until your rage ends, and you die only if you still have 0 hit points at that time.
And even
between that and I think
but to get to that point, he has to like. To get to that point, you have to knock him to 0, and then every time you knock him to 0, he can do the Barb thing where he's like, I'm too angry, and then I'm going to have 1 hit point instead. And that goes 10, it goes like 10, 15, 20?
It starts at 10 and goes up in 5s each new time. But
so
again,
like,
that's con saves, and he has crazy con anyway. So
he's like, it's like I would say on average, he's going to get like at least 3 out of that.
Oh, yeah, 10, 15, 20, I would say comfortably, yeah.
Yeah, at least 3. So you have to get him 3, that could be an entire round of attacks as well, which is hilarious. But you have to get him 3 times, you have to make him fail that, like, you have to, so he can...
And here's the thing, I have to hit him 3,
he's probably going to succeed 3 times, like, and you have to hit him, and, go on, tell him.
Yeah, because now I have to hit him as well, and I gave him a pair of swords that give him a parry ability, that gives him a bonus to 1 attack, equal to his proficiency bonus, which is 5 now. So he has to, and I think he has 19 armor class normally.
Yeah, because of Turtle.
And because he has dual wielding and a couple other things. So yeah, he's 19, so he can basically negate up to a 24 on an attack roll once per turn. Which is, I've made him exceptionally hard to kill.
Like, holy crap, like whatever does it, oh my god.
You know what though? Makes me want to play Zealot Barb.
Zealot Barb is pretty damn good, alright,
yeah.
Oh man. Right.
I would play Zealot Barb, and I would go half orc as well.
Oh god, just to stack everything on it as well? Just be like,
half orc and take lucky. And just make myself absolutely unkillable.
Take half orc lucky, which your ASIs take like resilient and take like is it resilient or durable that gives you proficiency in 1 save?
Yeah, because I was just gonna say Barbs get Dex and
Barbs get strength and con. Not that I was looking at taking on proficiency in one particular save or anything.
No, but I was saying like if you, and the thing is like if you lean heavier onto Constitution. You can get way more hit points, obviously being a barb and stuff like that. But you can even do this though. I tried to find out like a while back what's the max health points you can possibly get, or like even going on averages. If you just take the average for a D12, if you play a hill dwarf who gets a +2, and then you take +1 to each new level, and you max out your con at level 1. So if you get an 18 on any of your rolls, put it to con, and then you get a +2 onto it. And then take tough, so that you're getting a guaranteed 8 points of health increase per each time round, and then you're talking about 7 extra health from your dice if you're taking an average on a D12. So you're guaranteed to get 15 new points of health every single turn as you level up. And that's before magic items and everything, and you're well into the 200s by the time you hit level 20, like well into the 200s.
I think I get my next feat in 2 levels. So out of curiosity, I like went into the character builder, kicked log up 2 levels, and picked tough as a feat. 233 hit points.
So, what do you want now? What do you want currently?
155.
That's because you have a couple levels on top of that. That's so much though. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's with taking 4 fighter levels. So that's 4 levels. Like still a pretty tanky. Hit
D10,
but not D12, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it's very fun being a tank. It's very, very fun being a tank.
It is. But yeah, the I think the session was. I think I got a good like fight in terms of it was definitely scary, and it was definitely a concerning fight because there was worry someone might die or a couple of characters might die. Um, I do think I need to refine her stat block just a smidge. If I ever plan to use her again in an encounter, but
It's a cool stat block leader.
I'm trying to take a leaf out of the book of the dev of I was gonna say the devs, the game developers like Wizards, like
Yeah.
because they're trying to stray with modern kindness and stuff. They're refining a lot of the stat blocks so that they're easier to read for the DM and more straightforward. And I kind of took a leaf out of that. I just gave her some innate spell casting. I didn't give her a huge ton of spells, even though she's a hag. I could have given her like cantrips she can cast or whatever,
And
but
the
instead
sides
I
are
was
like the
like,
least magical anyway, aren't they?
they're more like brutes,
Yeah.
yeah. But instead I just gave her an ability because they've done this on a few stat blocks now, where they'll have a spellcaster, but they'll have like an arcane jolt ability or something like that, where it's just a generic attack. It's not a spell or a cantrip, and it's like a pretty simple one. I gave her Coven Blast, which is the thing she has, which because she has the skulls of her two sisters, she counts as a complete coven. She's
Yeah,
kept their
I love
skulls
that.
to keep that coven alive. So she can do 3d6 damage at a reach of 60 feet. And then she can choose to do cold, fire, or poison. Her specialty was poison, and her two sisters' specialties were cold and fire.
That's cool.
So she can choose what damage type she wants to do as well.
I like that. That is a very it's a very very cool stat block. Yeah, she's like hags are really fun anyway because like I've only used hags once. I actually in very very early in my first in my I nearly said my first campaign like whatever, but very very early in this campaign. One of the first when the guys made it to like the capital city of the country they were in, they took on like a mission for the city watch, as you do as an adventurer. And like they had a choice of three missions, and one of the ones they went on was that there's like this town on the edge of a bog, and everyone there is starting to not be able to sleep and have nightmares. And if they do sleep, they're having nightmares. And I basically ran them through the D&D version of the Blair Witch.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And I had like a red herring with this like creepy old woman that was living on the edge of town. And then they were like, "Oh, it's the creepy old woman on the edge of town." So they went to go and fuck her up, and then they came into her, they like found her house, her little hut. I even give her like a little witch's hut and all. They came into her house in the middle of a storm, in the middle of the night as well, which is perfect. And like they found like the door was like hanging open. They went inside and looked, and there's like blood all over the walls, and they found like a single eyeball inside there, and they were like, "Oh my god, like if she's not the witch, who is?"
Yeah.
Oh, it was so fun. And she was living in the bog in a submerged house under the bog. It was really fun. And everyone started disappearing around the bog. That was fun. But yes, hags are awesome.
Hags are fun. I feel like there's not enough. Sometimes I wonder that there's not enough emphasis put on witches in general, just evil witches. Which is a classic trope, but it's fun. It's a fun trope. Making pacts as warlocks or covens and
yeah. Well, like
there's a real
Tasha, I suppose, like.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like, sorry, I mean, in the campaigns we've played in, I feel like they don't show up. Like hags do, but there's a really great arc or level in Dishonored 2 where there's this woman and she got witch powers from the void, and then she kind of started recruiting other women into her coven, and she would like give them bits of power. So like, whereas most levels in Dishonored, you get to like, you're the one skulking on the rooftops, dropping down on guards and stuff like that. In this one, the witches, because they can also teleport, some of them are just sitting on chandeliers, just kind of twiddling their legs back and forth, and like you can't just be looking down at what's down. You need to be like, I've often been on a bookshelf or something looking at a guard walk by, and then I'll hear someone just humming, and I'll look to my left, and it's like 10 feet away is one of them that hasn't seen me yet, and I'm like, oh crap, don't move.
But I've played too many FromSoft games not to check all behind me, through any like fake doors, and also the ceiling whenever I enter a room, because they do be doing that quite a lot.
Just drops down on you.
like, oh my god, I was literally watching someone play through an area in Elden Ring before we started recording, where like it's a dungeon where all of the enemies in it have this like black aura over them, and you can't damage them while that's on them. But there's like this little this little circle of light in the area, but to get to it you have to run past them and then lead them into it. But when they do walk into that little circle of light, they get like staggered and stunned, and they lose their invulnerability, so you can like smash them. But like,
This is a similar mechanic in I don't know what creatures have it, but if you go to like design a creature on the stat block on D&D Beyond, in the resistances section, you can have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, or to all damage when in dim or darkness, dim light or darkness.
that's gonna be, I think that's something like wraiths or something maybe.
Maybe I think it's a great mechanic though. I love it.
Yeah, it's very cool. But like there was this, I was watching. It was actually Brandon Sanderson put up like a half-hour clip of him playing Elden Ring, but he didn't talk over it. He like filmed his playthrough of it, and then like in editing they put in his comments about what he's doing and stuff like. But it's just text rather than video, so I prefer the video. But like at one point he walks into this room and he like looks left, looks right. There's nothing. Looks up. There's 4 invulnerable imps with bleed daggers on hanging from the roof, just waiting.
That's literally horror movie stuff. You come and you look around like, oh, I think the coast is clear, and like a drop of blood hits your shoulder, and you go, what's that? And you look up and you just get mauled by something.
Because that's the problem from games. There's never the drop of blood. You like walk in and you're like, oh, there's an item over there. I'll go get the item. And then
screw you.
You just go to get the item and you just like, or like one just drops directly on your head. You're like, oh shit! And then you're swinging the camera and it's like, right, there's 5 of them. I have no heals and about 20% stamina that's still regenerating. Run! It's oh god. But I suppose we should stop messing around and actually get to talking about what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes, let's do it.
Which is one of the most interesting and fun classes in D&D. It's the Druid.
I would say one of the most powerful in 5th edition. For definite. Yeah, Druids are awesome. For those of you who don't know, let's be honest, everyone who's watching this knows, but Druids are your basic elemental nature kind of magic caster. They're a full caster. Their spells typically revolve around elemental effects and nature-based effects and stuff like that, as well as some healing and stuff thrown in there as well, which is quite nice.
Yeah, like the avatar. You're right. The avatar is a druid basically. Like.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Although with that being said, druids in the player's handbook anyway, I don't know if they have like an extended spell list for optional class features. Maybe they do. They do not. I take that back.
Sorry, I was thinking of expanded spell lists for their druid.
Oh, well, of course they don't. I'm looking at the wrong class here. They do. They have a handful of extra spells that can be put in. But like, wizard actually has a few more of the big elemental effect ones that wizards can do and druids can't, which I found kind of strange. But yeah, like for example, here you go, Cone of Cold, which is a 5th level spell. Yeah, that's an additional druid spell. That's not a base druid spell.
Oh yeah, but like I suppose like with druid, if you really want, kind of jumping the gun a little ahead, but with druid, if you really want like lots and lots of spells, you go Circle of Land because that's your spellcaster class.
And I mean they're druids. Despite what I'm saying, druids are still very, very good casters, very powerful casters. And if you take the additional spell list on that, and if you want to go Circle of the Land and get a handful of other spells, you're going to be rocking an insane arsenal of spells, which you can change daily because that's what makes druids awesome.
Druids, yes, being able to change out all your spells on the daily is insanely good. I can see it every time we rest, where like, because I have a druid and a sorcerer in my class, in my party rather, so I see like every time we take a long rest and I can see like Mandroi like, right, I'm going to take this and this and this and this and this, and then every so often I'll be looking at it because like they actually sit beside each other most of the time as well, so like the Mandroi will be like this, and then you see like Morrigan just sitting there like, yeah, I guess when we level I'll change out a spell.
I really like sorcerers, but I feel they're great, but they are very limited in like, if you pick your spells, having to like, I would almost institute a rule if someone else was playing sorcerer again, where I'm like, look, if you take like a week of downtime, you can swap out your spell list entirely if you want, or something like that, you know. You can
not opposed to an idea like that, where like you actually have to take, like, you have to be out of action and out, like you can't be out like actually doing stuff. Like, it's not just a thing where you can be like, well, I'm adventuring.
Yeah. It's not like I wouldn't make it as simple as a druid or as like a wizard spellbook or something like that. You need to take a week, because I mean what they do is they just innately know these spells.
They're mutants.
They're mutants essentially. Yeah, they just have these abilities, but like for them to learn to do a different ability, they'd have to learn. It's a lot of kind of like focusing internally, I would feel, and trying to like manifest magic differently, which could take a week to do. I would say you could like.
I'd be having to make like charisma checks or arcana. I'd say like charisma or arcana.
Maybe do a charisma arcana check, like.
Why not both? Yeah.
But yeah, like I would have them do something like that, just because I feel like that's one of the biggest factors I feel kind of holds them back, or why people prefer wizards over them.
Yeah.
Now meta magics are really good.
Crazy good, and I get to see the benefits of both because I have the druid and the sorcerer, and like, tell you straight up, the sorcerer and the druid are neck and neck when it comes to like just absolutely obliterating monsters. Like, it's pretty damn close. But yes, I totally agree. Druids super, like, if I'm gonna go into like the pros and cons or strengths and weaknesses of the druid class as a general thing, right before we get into like any subclasses or anything. Like, super like versatile spell list. Like, they have a lot of utility as well in their spell list, like with stuff like
yeah, definitely.
They have a lot of utility, a lot of damage. They're a spellcaster that gets a ton of AoE as well, which is really, really helpful, particularly if like maybe you're the only spellcaster in the party and the rest of your party is like, I don't know, like a rogue, a bard, and like a fighter. Like, you're the AoE clearer there, like.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I feel like if you're whenever you have elemental stuff involved, or as a big theme, you're almost certain to get things like fireball or tidal wave or a bunch of other stuff like
I actually love Erupting Earth. It's such a cool spell.
Erupting Earth, is that the small first level one or second?
No, that's I think it's at least third level, maybe. I think it's like a fifth level nearly, but it's the one where you do the big mad pillars of stone avatar, like Toph style.
Oh, that was like they added that in
That's what, yeah. It's like you literally, like, you slam your hands on the ground, I think, and it like erupts all these pillars up to the ground, and you have to make a dex save.
You can get 6 pillars, I think.
Yeah, and you can get stuck.
I want it's a 6th level spell
between them as well.
I think it's called Bones of the Earth or something like that.
I might be thinking, do you know what? Why I'm sitting here with D&D Beyond open, I could really just actually like get off my arse and look up Erupting Earth. But like, I think like Bones of the Earth is the one is that one. But I think Erupting Earth is also one where
Erupting Earth is definitely a spell. I think it's more just
it's third level. Choose a point you can see. A fountain of churned earth and stone erupts in a 20-foot cube centered on that point. Each creature in the area must make a dex save. They take 3d12 bludgeoning on a failed save, or half as much on a success. The ground in that area. Bones of the Earth is the one that makes all the pillars that comes down and can pin people. Because
I think it's a 5th level or a 6th level.
I know, because my party ruined the clockwork behavior with it. Absolutely destroyed the clockwork behavior with it. But I was confusing Erupting Earth with that. But still, Erupting Earth is still a pretty damn good spell, to be honest.
Yep.
But yes, Bones of the Earth, rather, and also what a great name for the spell, Bones of the Earth. I absolutely adore it. That would be that's a really good one against stuff like dragons as well, actually, because you can like pin them.
Yeah. It's probably that's most useful underground, because I think they get to 30 feet high max, but if the ceiling is any lower than that and you do it below a creature, you can literally just like smush them against the ceiling with one of the pillars.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Which is just amazing.
And they're pinned, they're stuck there as well.
They are, so they take bludgeoning damage from being crushed, and then I think it's 66 bludgeoning damage, and then they're also restrained by the pillar until they can use a strength or dexterity check to break free. Yeah. But again, like, you can use that for a bunch of different stuff. You could use that like if you wanted to scale a wall. You could just have everyone line up in front of it and raise all your party members up to it. You could do it like if you were being attacked by, just say, wolves or something else that's like a creature that can only move on land. You could just be like, everyone stay where you are, and just raise everyone off the ground so everyone's out of reach of these creatures that are attacking. You could pin people to the ceiling and smush them. You could throw up 6 of them and use them as cover points if you're being peppered with arrows. Just be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There you go. Now everyone stay on this side of your pillar, and you won't be taking any damage from the archers who are shooting down at you.
No, like you're totally spot on. Like that's like don't know how I didn't list that as well. I'm saying like some of the strength tasks. Druids are really really good at controlling the battlefield. They get stuff like tidal wave, wall of flame, watery sphere, fiery sphere.
Wall of stone is there as well.
Wall of stone. They get just like lots of really really good like AoE kind of crowd control, area control effects as well.
Via plants, utility as well.
God, it's so broken. It's so broken. I have to prep everywhere in my world now.
Yeah, I mean, once you hit any sort of level where it's very very easy just to get from, and usually it's like 10th level plus usually, but once you get access to a spell that will let you teleport places like transport via plants or teleportation circle, or a vehicle like an airship or a boat, whatever, you can just be like, oh, let's all get on our boat and sail across the ocean to this other kingdom, and you as a DM are like, I don't have any of that planned. What am I gonna do?
Now imagine, if you will, you're a DM with a druid that has transport via plants, and you give the party an airship. They flew it through a tree last session. They flew the airship through a tree.
Like, here's the thing. At least you can at least when it comes to like transportation circle or something, or teleportation circle, I should say. At least you can limit the player's knowledge of circles in the world, because you need to have a receiving circle for that. So you might limit them by saying you know how to get to this city, but you don't have one to go to this other place. But like with transport via plants, as long as the druid has seen a tree at some point in their life, they can go to that tree, which is ridiculous.
And with scrying, they can just scry on an area in a place they don't know and find a tree, and then they've seen a tree in that area. No, I'm kind of playing up how much it does. I mean, I think it's really cool. Transfer by Plants is a very thematically cool and awesome spell, because it always reminds you of the mycelium network. I think that's the correct term for it. The mushroom internet. You know what I mean? Please tell me you know what I'm on about. Otherwise, I'm gonna sound like I'm having.
It sounds very familiar. Remind me here.
There's like a massive network of roots and like fungus and stuff underground that like spans miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, and all of the fungi on that are basically all linked together in what's basically like an internet, like a network, and they can.
Is this like a Myconid thing?
Yes, like literally look up Google the mushroom internet, and you'll know what I'm on about. Because otherwise, I sound like I'm having a psychotic break live on the podcast. It's the mushroom internet. Like, I'm the new Alex Jones. Like, they're turning the frogs gay. But yes,
that sounds really familiar, and I'm almost certain I've definitely heard it before.
Yes.
But
I'm not crazy. Right, I'm not crazy. But yes, so druids.
That's what a crazy person would say.
I know. But they've got druids have a big long list of strengths. One of them being sanity. And then in terms of their weaknesses, I would say they're a bit of a slow starter. Like, they really, really start to ramp hard in power, in my opinion, anyway. 10th level plus. Like,
even earlier, I would say like kind of like around like 6, 7 onwards.
Oh yeah,
they get a nice power boost. But I know what you mean though. Like, they're like probably more so than a lot of other casters, where druids are like, where a lot of other casters get spells, like pretty powerful spells. Druids tend to get like elemental level spells like whirlwind and stone and earthquake and all this, like these huge. They're events. They're not just spells, they're events that are happening.
They're not clerics, but they literally get like Wrath of God type shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You could build a druid that is like, you know, if you want, you could put an evil druid in a campaign that's the antagonist who's obsessed with like natural disasters and like destroying cities and reclaiming the world for the natural order and stuff like that. You know. Do
not tempt me. I'm currently writing my second campaign.
There you go.
But yeah, they're for reference, I have DM'd a moon druid from level 1 to 7, and then they left, and then I actually hilariously got replaced by another druid, and so I from level 7 to what we're at now is 14. I have DM'd for a Wildfire Druid, and those are two vastly different experiences. So early levels, I would say like you may be getting like out damage, but if you really care about the damage, by like maybe like your wizards or your sorcerers, maybe, just because like sorcerers are meta magic and they can do like crazy stuff like twins, but like isn't Witch Bolt like a second level?
Witch Bolt's the first level, and
First
you
level,
can
sorry,
use
yeah.
it. You can twin spell it
Yeah,
as well.
and so it's like you could like twin spell witch bolts and you're just like wrecking people with D12 lightning damage at like level,
Yeah.
like crazy low levels. But like I like personally speaking, I like would totally agree. I think it's once they hit the break point where they start getting the wild shape that'll let them turn into like animals that can fly, animals that can swim, and like all of them can do that as well. Some of them have other uses for their wild shape, which we'll probably get into over the course of this episode.
Yeah.
Particularly in the aforementioned Wildfire Spirit. But yeah, I really think like once you start getting to late game, druids are literally just nature incarnate. Like I will never forget watching Critical Role Campaign 1, and there's I can't remember exactly what part it is. It's sort of towards late game. I think they maybe like level 12, 13. But they're on an airship going somewhere to look for this like secret base of Vecna's, and they're like flying through the sky, and Matt narrates this like crazy looking like arcane lightning storm that's approaching the ship, and he's like, there's no way you guys can get out of this. Like you're gonna hit it soon.
You're on a collision course.
You're on a collision course. There's no time to turn, and it's so big. Even if you did turn, they're just gonna take it on the hitting the side instead. He's like, what do you do? And Keelan literally goes, I've got this. And she just walks out onto the prow of the ship and casts control weather, and like just tells the storm to leave them alone, basically.
Yeah.
And Matt just like narrates how she's just standing at the front of the ship with like her arms out, and like lightning bolts are like striking down from the sky, and she's like channeling them through one arm out into another, redirecting it away from the ship. And I was just like, holy crap, druids are OP. Like what's going on?
Druids are that reminds me of that scene in like season 1 of Avatar: Legend of Aang, where there's a village and there's a volcano exploding and it's rolling downhill, and like Aang, who's the goofy like 11-year-old who's like he's still really silly and he makes jokes the whole time and all this, he takes nothing seriously, and then when the lava is flowing down, you watch it, he's just like, I think he uses like, he only has airbending at this point, but he's
got earthbending. I think he's got earthbending for that one.
Does he?
Because he doesn't.
I can't remember.
He digs like trenches, doesn't he?
I thought the town did that, but maybe he did. But either way, he like this 11-year-old just suddenly manifests all the power in the world to stop a volcano and redirect the flow and everything.
I hear the music in my head.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
so
like,
good.
but I mean that's a very similar situation to Keelis there, where Keelis is kind of a little bit dopey sometimes, and she doesn't always get social stuff, and she can come across a bit like meek and stuff. But then when a push comes to shove, she just pulls out the most ace cards. So like because again, you know for a fact Matt as a DM was like, okay, I'll have them do some checks to make sure the sails remain intact, and I'll have someone on the helm making checks to make sure they stay on course, and maybe they'll get lost, and he has all this stuff planned, and she's just like, yeah, I cast control weather and make it be better.
Yeah, it's so like druids always remind me so much of like storm. Like storm is like the perfect, I think, like example of like
you could actually build a very cool storm.
Yeah, like
as a druid. Yeah,
I would love to do like a storm type of like storm can survive in the vacuum of space because she can control atmospheric effects. That is her power. Basically anything you can kind of class as weather, storm control, including solar winds.
Well, that's cool. Wait, so what does she do? Would she just like bring atmosphere with her and have it surround her in a bubble?
I think like I only remember this so well because I literally watched, I think it was Storm versus like Wonder Woman on Death Battle or something like that recently. But the Storm analysis was really good. But I just remember it was like, I was just being like, that's insane. She generates the right ratio of oxygen and nitrogen atoms in a bubble around herself and creates an atmosphere.
I think.
Which is a bit above druids, I think, maybe. But, like, you know.
I have not seen this battle thing you're talking about.
Death battle?
This death battle, this specific one. I'm going to say Storm would kick Wonder Woman's ass, though.
I can't remember who it was. I'm really taken because I watched it recently. They had a really good one recently, actually.
She's an Omega class mutant.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, so, like don't get me wrong, Wonder Woman's awesome, but, like, really... I'm not saying it would be a complete wipeout. It'd be close, right, but I do think Storm would probably win.
Before I enrage the internet, I will check who it was because we've had people get angry before when we talked about DC. Storm.
Oh, have we? Or are you talking about me?
It was Storm versus Korra.
Storm. I love Cora, but Storm.
Yeah, no, it was Storm.
Yeah.
Spoiler. But yes,
Again, Cora, very powerful, great avatar. You know, and when she goes to avatar state and controls all elements, like the elements, does some crazy cool stuff. She cannot control like Storm could make an entire city change its weather effect. She could turn it to winter like in a heartbeat in like a couple of minutes, whereas Cora might affect a single city block when she's at her most power. You know?
Yeah, it's actually a really fun episode to watch because they do really good analysis in both. Death Battle, for a lot of the crap it gets from a lot on the internet, it's fun to watch. I enjoy it. It's kind of mindless and brainless, but I think this is a good time to maybe talk about Druid character concepts because I know, and you said it before on the podcast, so I don't feel bad mentioning it, that you said you sometimes struggle to come up with a Druid character concept past like your standard. I live in nature and I don't wear metal and I don't live in the city because that's where civilization is, and I like the wild and all these 4 elements and everything. The very much standard, your tree hugger hippie Druid kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm mechanically, I think Druids are maybe one of the best classes in the game. They're definitely on like the upper. If we were to rank all the classes, Druids would definitely be in the top third. I think for definite.
I would say I'd say top 4 maybe.
They're definitely one of the best casters, I think, because they do have they have versatility, but they don't sacrifice raw power to get it. They still have a very powerful abilities and spells. And then you get things like wild shape and all this other stuff that makes them just. And then like if you go like Moon Druid and get the advanced wild shape,
yes,
and then you get to like 20th level and you can do that an infinite amount of times as a bloody bonus action. And it's broken. You can't beat it.
I think it's probably 14th level Moon Druid as well, because Mandroi just got his 14th level Wildfire Spirit feature. Is the you can cast spells while wild shaped as a Moon Druid.
Yes,
which is insane. I love the idea of like a panther casting fireball. What does that look like? Like, tell me in great detail.
If we go on class features, wild shape.
Jeez, like an arch druid, like a fully 20th level Moon Druid would be the most amazing, like, and hilarious assassin type character, because you could just turn into like a robin and like fly up in front of someone's window, and they're like looking out the window, like doing the washing, and they're like, oh, what a lovely fireball.
Yeah.
Or like oh my god, just like visions of like a bird on a branch, and someone's like, oh, hello Mr. Bird, how's it going? The beak opens, a little green orb starts charging up, and they just disintegrate them, although druids can't cast disintegrate.
They cannot, but again, you get things like fireball and now Conor cold with the advanced spell list. So sorry, druid concepts. I struggle. I love them mechanically. I struggle to conceptually come up with something that I feel is unique enough that is worth playing.
I get you.
Just because I'm sure I'd have fun regardless. But if I'm going to make a character, I want to go outside the box a little bit. I don't necessarily want to be the elf or half elf or gnome that lives in the forest, and you know his best friend is a badger, because why not? And he's never. I've never even been to a city. In fact, this is only the second time I've talked to people before, and stuff like that. You know, and like it's a fun concept. And being that fish out of water can be hilarious as well. When you're walking around a town and you see like a fruit cart and you just take an apple because there's like fruit everywhere, and someone's like, you're gonna pay for that, right? It's like, what's paying?
There's that great line in like the latter half of the first season of Legend of Vox Machina where they sneak into the Dorolo Castle through the dungeons, and Keyleth is like walking beside Percy. He's like, so Percy, your castle's really nice, and he's like, this is the dungeons, Keyleth. The Briarwoods will be found elsewhere. It's like, oh my god, yes, so good.
I love that fish out of water, and it's great, but it's just I'd want something unique if I'm going to play one. Now, that being said, I do have a cool idea.
Ooh, do share.
So, and it may not be the subclass. I can't remember if I told you this before. It may not be the subclass you think it is as well. It's one of the if we're talking about the popular subclasses, right? We're talking Moon for definite, in terms of the base 2.
I think Moon is probably the most popular as well, because people are just like, I can turn into animals even more. Yeah, let's do it.
Exactly, and then later on into elementals, which is really, really good. Yeah. So, Moon, Wildfire, I think Spore is quite popular as well, just in
Spores,
concept. People like it.
Stars as well is quite popular, I think.
Stars is getting more popular, yeah, now that it's out. But I think those are the main ones, right? Land is good, but people already have spellcasting, so unless you really want to double down on it, they don't really bother.
No, not really, no.
Dreams can be okay, but it's probably the weakest of them.
Yeah.
It's got a couple of utility things, but I don't personally think it's the most beneficial. The one I'm using is Shepherd.
Ooh, I
So
like this. I actually really I had a character built a while ago, Circle of Shepherd. I really like Circle of Shepherd.
So what they do with Circle of Shepherd is really cool because they kind of focus around the idea that you are a friend to animals, being the shepherd naturally, but they focus around this idea that like your ability to summon
Oh no, I was
animals
Ranger. Sorry,
is like
yeah.
sorry, go on.
I thought I mistook Ranger Swarm Keeper for the Druid subclass for a second. My bad. Apologies. Please.
Oh yeah. Actually, that's a great subclass, and I have a cool idea for that one as well. But anyway, so basically, the way it works is like they have a couple of abilities that makes them summoning creatures to the battlefield really, really good. So what you can do here is you can have summon beasts, and if you cast that at a high enough level,
Oh my god, okay? No, please continue. But I think I know what you're going to say, and I hope I'm right.
so you can do this. This is not summoned Fae now. This is summoned beasts.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can summon like I think it's like 8 swarms of rats.
Oh no! Now you did tell me this character concept before.
Yeah, and if you when you get the 6th level ability, Mighty Summoner, creatures that you summon appear with 2 extra hit points per hit die it has. And then the damage from this natural weapon is considered magical for the purposes of overcoming immunity and resistance to non-magical. So you can basically just summon in 8 swarms of rats for like not a very high level spell, and even more if you want to go higher levels, I believe. I would have to bring my own minis to this to a game I play this.
You would, yeah.
I couldn't just expect that, and I'd have to like number them all as well. But my concept was that I want to play, could be any race really, a druid urchin background. So you grew up homeless on the streets, but the rats in the city were your friends.
I like that.
And so people, you can have a similar kind of fish out of water experience, because like you've lived poor your whole life, so you're not really if you meet a friend who's like a knight, you're like, oh, and like you go to castles and stuff. I've seen them from the outside. I've never been inside one before.
I think this food's gone after. There's no green on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where's the tasty part? You know, the green bit that's on all the corners. But yeah, you could totally do something really cool like that. And I thought I'd play like a young kid who's like maybe only like 19 or something like that. Something.
You've seen James Gunn's Suicide Squad, yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Ratcatcher too. Yeah.
Ratcatcher, yeah. See, I had this concept before Ratcatcher. I will say that, 'cause I only saw that movie
Well, to be fair,
recently.
you're also basically playing the Pied Piper of Hamelin.
The Pied Piper is kind of where I got the inspiration from.
It's a very cool. I can totally see that working in actually an area I wrote for my new campaign. It's like I have an idea for like a but like a Victorian era London, kind of industrial revolution era London style city.
Exactly. That's exactly where I kind of play it as
Basically, I wanted a Bloodborne city in my world this time around, so yeah, I'm doing that.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
So a swarm of rats. It has. People can move through them technically, but they have like 24 hit points, and then they have a bite attack which does 2d6 piercing. And also they have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing just flat, not even magical. Because they're a swarm, you're only hitting 1 or 2 at a time when you attack them. Yeah, and like summoning 8 of them and just swarming your enemies. I just want to play a Plague Druid.
Yeah, you'd have to make. I was gonna say you'd have to make your druidic focus like it's a staff that's got like holes carved in it, so you can play it like a flute.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And you can
you
summon the rats. Yeah. Oh,
that's really cool.
It's cute.
But yeah, I basically played this grubby little urchin, who is all about like, oh, the rats have always been my friends. So if I play my flute, they just come. I don't know why.
Okay.
And then you could summon other things as well. but I'd mainly try to focus on summoning rats and maybe bats and insects and other plague related stuff, you know.
That's very cool.
Swarms of bees and stuff that could be cool as well.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so cool. It's so cool. You're basically playing a swarm keeper druid, which is
Yeah, honestly, I could even I have a cool concept for a swarm keeper where it's basically Gara from.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Because there's nothing that says like that the swarm you summon is like a living thing or has to be this or has to be that. So you can just say, oh, my swarm is just granules of sand that come out of this thing on my back.
The actual bug guy in Naruto.
I
can't remember his name either. It's not Ino, because that's you with the blonde hair and the mind stuff. I don't think it's important. But dude, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Shino.
Oh, Shino. I was close.
Yeah.
What I thought you were going to say, because I had forgotten you told me about the Plague Druid thing, which is very cool. Definitely a character you want the Vermin Shroud on. But what I thought you were going to say is, because you could do it with that Druid subclass as well, is you could be a Pokemon Master.
Yeah. That's fair. That's something you could totally do as well.
You could 100% just be a Pokemon Master. Like, I believe like reptiles count as beasts, so like you could literally summon a salamander and be like, Charmander, I choose you.
That'd be quite cool as well, to be fair.
Dude, I've got one that I'm a big fan of that I haven't gotten to do. I think I've talked about it in the podcast before, but it's basically Steve Irwin as a druid, and he's a basically like a conservationist druid, and he's out there trying to discover like extinct animals and stuff, and he wants to find the Tarrasque. That's his goal in life, is to find the Tarrasque and study it.
I love the idea of a druid Steve Irwin, who, like, when combat starts on the first of every turn, like the first thing you do is not like I cast this, I cast that. It's you run up to within 5 feet of whatever monster you're fighting and go, whoa, look at that, because you're so enamored with all these beautiful monsters and stuff.
I've so many dumb ideas for it as well, because you know the way we're going to go on a Crocodile Hunter tangent here, folks, I'm sorry, but you know the way when Crocodile Hunter back in the day, where he like come up to a snake and be like, this snake can spit venom from like 15 feet away, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get right up on him, but to make sure that I don't get messed up by the venom, I'm going to put on my trusty sunnies. And he puts on a pair of sunglasses, and he's like 3 feet from this snake that would kill him with a tap, and he's just like, no, I'm going to pet it. That would be a character that you would have to play. If you're doing the Steve Irwin Druid, you'd have to play it with the most reckless enthusiasm for losing your life to a cool monster.
That's what I mean, though. Like that's exactly what I mean. But like, I feel like that could be a really fun one to play. There's something I was gonna say. I remember very specifically, because I saw the clip multiple times when I was growing up. Steve Irwin was driving down the side of a road or whatever with his camera crew and stuff, and it just pulled up on the side of the road, and there was like, was it a red spitting cobra or something like that? And he, I think that's the same clip you're talking about, and he puts on his glasses, and it's just a pair of like plastic
they're just sunglasses. They're like nothing special.
And he gets up and it spits on him, and like it spits, and he goes, whoa, and he goes up to, he shows the camera, he takes off, he goes, look, see the spittle here on the front of it, and he's like, now I don't want to touch that because that'll even irritate my fingers or get my face, I can't have that. So I think he wipes it on his clothes or something, and he puts them back on.
He puts them back on though, like.
But like then like a couple minutes later, it spat at him again, and like some of it just got like on his hand here, and like where the spit had landed had flamed up all in like, it was inflamed and red, and it had swollen, and it was just bright red. And I'm like, and like they tried to get this in your eyes.
Yeah. Like,
and again, he was doing the thing where he grabs its tail, and he's like, now if I hold onto its tail, it can't get near me because I can just pull that. I'm like, what are you doing? Stop.
I love that man so much. And an alternative take on this as well, instead of Steve Irwin, you could do that guy on YouTube, Coyote Peterson, who did the like, I'm gonna get bit/stung by every insect on the pain scale of like insect.
Was he the one who got the bullet ant?
Yes.
And they held it and let it bite him on.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And he was like curled into a ball. He was in so much pain.
That's a series he does where he went from bottom all the way up to bullet ant of the it's like, I can't remember the exact name for the it's like this, it's like the Scoville index, but for chilies, but for like the pain of a particular insect's bite or sting, which was made by a guy who did exactly. He went out and got bit and stung by everything to see how bad it hurts. Like, which is again a great concept for a druid. Like,
There was if you played a dwarf in that, you could explain your poison resistance. Like, I've been bit and stung so many times, I barely feel it anymore.
I love that. You could. Oh, I have two. I have two more concepts for druids that aren't super fleshed out. One of them also isn't mine. It's from Tulok the Barbarian. But I just thought it was so cool. It's worth a mention here. So the one I have is and you're gonna be shocked to hear it. Snake handler. You're a snake handler druid. And you just summon snakes, and you theme all your druid spells around like poison and stuff, and like
Those who are wondering, that's surprising because Martin does not like snakes.
No, I do not like snakes. But you could do like I was like writing my notes for this today to prep, and I was like, druid subclasses. Like, what druid concept would I choose? And then I'd like, my Steve Irwin one was in my head already, and then like I had just flicked on looking for ideas to the Tulok the Barbarian one, which is the it's actually a homebrew druid subclass he made. He went through a while there, I want to say about 6 months ago, where he did videos where it was, right, I never use homebrew in my building character series. Here are my homebrew. And it was like 3 every episode. And the one he did for the druid was called the Circle of Bones. And they're basically druids that turn into kaiju.
That's pretty cool.
So like, if you want to be a druid and turn into like Godzilla, which is basically the Trask, as you scale and level through that class, eventually you do get to, like, I think you get the size huge. With your wild shape, like you burn your wild shape to transform into bigger and bigger and bigger abominations. And I think from what I remember of it, you go around and what you do is like to learn your wild shape, you discovered fossils in the desert or in a mountain or in a hillside or something, and you use your druidic power to like use the power of nature to take on the shape of this fossilized creature that's been lost to time, which I think is
cool.
Such a cool idea.
I had there's one, and I think you mentioned it a while ago. Druids have this weird thing where they get both light and medium armor proficiency.
Yes.
But you're not allowed to use metal.
Also known as the taboo.
Yes. You're not allowed to use metal because druids are all about the natural world, and a piece of metal armor or a steel sword that was forged in fire is too manufactured for them.
Yeah.
And I get it. I do. But also, why give me medium armor?
Yeah.
Like, is there medium? I don't think there's medium armor you can wear unless you had some sort of like dragon bone armor or something like that. Like, they're going to have metal on them, so I don't entirely know why we have the medium armor proficiency. Unless
studded leather is medium armor, isn't it?
No, it's light.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, hide leather and studded leather are lights, and then breastplate, chainmail, half plate, scale.
You could do scale.
Chainmail is not scale, is what I meant to say.
You could do scale armor, but have it be natural scales rather than scales of metal.
Yeah, like there's definitely ways to get around it, but I'm like, it's a strange one. And one class I've always wanted to, or subclass I've always wanted to see druids do, because they'd be really cool, is a melee tanky kind of class for them. That's basically the Green Knight.
I built one, and that's what I call the character. I think I took 3 levels of fighter and then 17 levels of druid.
Yeah, exactly. And like you can do some cool stuff with that, but because I'm pretty sure druids get a few weapon related things.
You raise a really interesting point in the whole druids and metal thing. As I said, it's called the taboo. It's sort of a hang up 5th edition has from earlier editions where just straight up druids could not use metal armor at all. I believe in previous editions, or in 4th edition, I think druids just flat out couldn't cast spells if they were wearing metal. They just couldn't. It stopped the natural energy, which I bet is super confusing for Chinese people who play D&D, because metal is one of the elements in the Chinese element thing.
It is, yeah. So is wood as well.
It is. Yeah, it totally is.
Yeah.
But like the thing with metal, right? And I actually watched a video quite recently from. Do you know the guy who does the 1 minute D&D videos? They're like really good.
Oh yes,
the
he's
with Sundown
English
guy,
fella, isn't he?
American. Oh, that guy is also quite good though. I know who you're on about. He's the guy with the big beard. But no, this is an American guy who wears a hat, and he always finishes his videos off with "See you at sundown."
Oh, yes. Oh, I was watching him recently.
But he did a really good video. Someone asked him what's the deal with druids and metal, and he kind of points out what I said there about, like, in previous editions it was like they just couldn't do anything at all. In 5th edition, it says that druids are not proficient with metal armor. It specifically calls out the druids are not proficient with metal armor, right? And because they're not proficient with it, that's why they cannot cast while in metal armor. So, raw, at least, if you were to, I don't know, multi-class, take a feat that would give you proficiency with, specifically, like if you just took a level in fighter, just to get proficiency with all, or fighter or blood hunter or any of those, proficiency with all armors, then like he was like, someone did that in my game, I would rule that, yeah, druids can cast in metal armor. And you know what, I'm having a hard time arguing with that, because it's listed under proficiencies.
Honestly, I find the rule kind of odd. Yeah. I mean, I get it, I do get it, but at the same time, you have proficiency in scimitars, daggers, maces.
You can cast Flame Blade.
Yeah.
Flame Blade is such a cool goddamn spell.
What I would really love to see is one druid subclass where they're like, hey, you know the thing about metal? Forget it. You know, where either you can wear metal.
How is there not a Magneto druid subclass?
That's strictly metal based.
No, magnetism. Magnetism isn't a primary force of nature.
If I was building Magneto, I'd use the Graviturgist.
Yeah. I think so too.
I think
but
more.
You know, like, but you know what I mean, like, because like metal is an element of nature. It's like they're like natural ores and stuff like that are found. We literally dig them out of the ground to get them. I think
the idea of manufacturing and purifying them is defiling that natural ore in the eyes of a druid. You know,
I'd also imagine they're probably not going to introduce anyone who can do like Magneto level stuff in D&D, because like that kind of renders every martial class kind of fucked. Because like I just imagine like the bad guys is like, I killed your father, I'm gonna kill you now, and I've like set your house on fire and you're all gonna die, and then you just go, is that a breastplate? Boom, and you just
crush.
No, just like shoot the middle of the breastplate through their own actual breastbone, instant kill. The heart is behind it.
Well, I was thinking there's a scene in
actually
in the Knights...
what Caleb did to a bunch of those guys with graviturgy magic when they broke into the...
Yes.
Oh, he just crumpled people with gravity magic. It was...
There's a scene in all of the they do like long animated story videos for all of the new expansions to Star Wars The Old Republic, and one of them is like this old forgotten empire, and they're training a kid and trying to get the Force to manifest in her, and there's like full trained guards in their full armor and they had wooden sticks, and they're hitting her, and she's like losing badly because she's like 10, and at a certain point she like loses her temper and kind of screams, and the Force just kind of acts in all directions, and that you literally there's this zooming in shot where it zooms in and rotates on a guy's eye in his armor slit, like he's looking through, and you can see he's scared, and the armor is crumbling and breaking in around him, and he's terrified, and then like her parent or master or whatever stops her, and she just releases it, and your man falls to the ground dead because he's just been crushed in his own armor.
Oh god. So like oh god, we need a metal bender in D&D. But yeah, let me see if a quick look. Oh yeah, I think it's probably maybe a good time we talk about some of our favorite subclasses.
Yes, let's go.
I'm gonna go straight in there because it's the one that I have the most experience with. I love the Wildfire Druid. I really, really, really love the Wildfire Druid.
It's a great addition, and I honestly, it's, you know, sometimes when like they introduce a new subclass and it just rockets straight to the top of popularity, I think the Wildfire Druid is that.
And what's nuts about the Wildfire Druid, if I'm remembering rightly, is that wasn't one that Wizards internally developed and play tested themselves. That was one that just someone who works for Wizards was playing. This was her homebrew for her Druid, and she was playing that in a home game, and it worked so well. She showed it to Wizards, and they were like, "Holy crap! Can we have this in the game, please?" And they put in, and after DMing it for 7 levels. Yep, I agree. It's so cool. There's so much flavor in it. My Wildfire Druid is called Mandroi, and he's a Tabaxi. So his Wildfire Spirit is a tabby cat that in battle, like, cause just for the narrative fun of it, I like to cause he has to summon the spirit out to have it out for battle and stuff. But like if they're not fighting, if they're just RPing or just being around, narratively we always have it say that he's around in like just like a flamey body, or like he's like on his shoulder, or it's like hovering around him, something like that, just because like why wouldn't you want that extra role play element for the player, you know? That he has a fun little like fire cat spirit that he goofs around with most of the time. And then when shit hits the fan, it turns into a foo dog, which
Yeah.
is sick. I love it. We're going like I've gone because Mike loves anime, so I've gone like a fairly heavy like Naruto influence in all his visuals and stuff.
Yeah, it's like the Nine-Tailed Fox.
Yeah,
Kind of almost.
sort of, yeah, and like and because he's really clever. What's really sick and really clever about Wildfire Spirit is the elemental doesn't have the immutable form feature that all other elementals have.
Yes.
So you can polymorph it. So like I remember like there was a running gag before when I had my original moon druid, because all she would do is turn into a giant ape and smash stuff.
Yeah.
And like that was fun and all, but like after a while you're like, you've lots of really cool spells you can use too. But like after that just became a meme of my campaign, giant ape time. And then like they left, and then Mandroi comes in and we're like, oh, Wildfire Spirit, like, do you know what, it'll be really cool because we'll see a different thing to how the other druid played. You know, it's not just going to be like giant ape all the time, as fun as that was. First combat with Mandroi and the Blood Hunter in the party. Right, what do you do? He's like, I cast Polymorph on Mushu. That's his cat's name, Mushu. I cast Polymorph on Mushu, and I turn him into a giant ape. I was like, I can't escape it. But it's just very fun, and we like narratively.
It's always either giant ape or T-Rex. When people want to polymorph into the best thing possible.
Oh, T-Rex is brutal. 4d12 bite damage. Holy crap! Like.
I think ape outpaces it in terms of damage though, because you get 2 attacks as an ape.
Yeah, so it's 60-10.
Yeah, and they're 3d10. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in +6 as well. It's nasty. That's how I know it's mods, Conor. That's how often the giant ape.
Yeah.
Like, no, but memes aside, really really cool. Moon Drew. Actually, sorry, I've been kind of taking everything over. Wildfire is my favorite far and away, but I will say that in terms of power level, I think it's very close to the other two top 3 that we've kind of discussed. What about you?
Well, let me say I really like Wildfire. Even thematically, Wildfire is an interesting one because they've chosen to go with a single element as the core idea of that. But I like the way that they did it in that Wildfire is literally about like when actual wildfires happen, and then you have there's a name for it. It's called like hyper bloom or something like that, when ecosystems are destroyed, but then the environment like kicks back. Now it's not always the case, but there's like this hyper bloom where plants will grow, and then there's also like when things burn and turn into charcoal and break down into the earth, that refertilizes places as well, and more life can grow. And they actually get in their spell list cure wounds, revivify, mass cure wounds, aura of life, and it's not just about destruction with fire, but also like life coming back after it's been revivified.
That's a really really good point to make with the Wildfire Spirit that because I see so often the destructive capabilities of it that I kind of just but no, they actually call out in the start of the Wildfire thing where it's very much inspired by like the idea of the phoenix, the flames of rebirth and life and rebirth, and they have a really really cool latter level ability. I think it might be their level 11 ability for the Wildfire Spirit. It's called Flames of Life. And basically, if an enemy creature I think it has to be a humanoid, but if they die within 30 feet, you can use your reaction to cause essentially the corpse to burst into flame. And if an enemy walks through it, they take damage. I think it's 2d10. And if an ally walks through it, they get healed 2d10.
Yeah, it's cauterizing flames.
Sorry, that
here.
Was it,
yeah, 10th level Wildfire. That's really cool.
It's
so Wildfire, really, really great. Again, it's I think it's one of those ones where it's a bit like Hexblade Warlock.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of the first ones, but as soon as it came out, it kind of became everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
I really like it came about a weird way, and I feel like maybe it gets forgotten sometimes because of how it was released. It wasn't released in a core book. Right. It was a
This is a skag, is it?
No. It was released in the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, and it's the Spore Druid.
Oh, yeah. So I didn't realize that was a Ravnica release.
It was originally a Ravnica thing, and then I don't know. Did they re-release it in Tasha's?
I think it was either Tasha's or Xanthar's, because I remember you used that pretty early. No, not early, but like towards the latter half of our first campaign. I think that's because it just came out.
It came out in a UA, and then it first appeared in Guildmaster's Guide. But I really like it though. I think it's a fun flavor. I think they had a druid before, who was like the Druid Circle of Twilight, who had a whole thing about like death and decay. No, there's a Twilight cleric now.
Okay, yeah, no, sorry, yeah, go on. I gonna have a look. Just really. Oh yeah, that was sorry. It was originally a druid, was it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it necessarily inspired. I'd have to look at the two side by side. But originally there was a Twilight cleric, and it was about druids. Sorry, originally a Twilight druid. It was about druids who revere life in nature as much as death, and understanding that death is a natural process,
Yeah.
and that
Hated undead.
sometimes you. Yeah, but there was some undead elements to
No,
it.
like
Yeah.
they hated undead because that's a perversion of the natural cycle of life and death.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry. You're right. Yeah. I'd have to go back and read the UA, but they were very cool. And I think the Spore Druid kind of gets that as well. It's like, oh, like things will die, animals and plants will die, but then spores, which is just a different form of life when you think about it, grows on these things like mold and spores. And I think it's really fun in that sense. You also get it's a little bit tanky if I remember rightly. You get like
Yeah,
an ability to like summon an armor of spores around yourself.
it's sort of almost like the form of dread that the Undying Warlock has.
Yeah, not unlike. So you get a few different things like there's a lot of poison based effects and necrotic based effects. Um, I think you can do a thing when you turn to a wild shape. You get an ability as an action. You can use a use of your wild shape to awaken those spores. Rather than transforming to a beast, you gain 4 temporary hit points for each level you have in this class. Which again, when you scale up, is like you're talking about like 20, 30, 20, 40, 80 total. And while the feature is active, you have the following effects: when you deal your Halo of Spores damage to a creature, roll the die a second time and add it to the total, and your melee attacks deal an extra D6 necrotic damage if they hit. These benefits last for 10 minutes. So you get to be like really tanky and melee-ish while also just poisoning everyone around you.
Sorry, I just saw their 14th level ability. Like, what the actual fuck?
Oh yeah, your fungal body, fungal spores in your body alter you. You can't be blinded, deafened, frightened, or poisoned, and any critical hit against you counts as a normal hit instead, unless you are
So
incapacitated.
you're just made of adamantine.
I kind of there is one criticism I have of this class, and just that when I think of them and them getting their spore ability, I like to imagine that they're turning into bloaters from The Last of Us, where they're just huge and hulking, but it's all just like mushroom and stuff that is formed on their surface. So when you're hacking into those 80 extra hit points, you're cutting off chunks of mushroom that have grown on their body. There's a really funny character in Rat Queens in like issue 5, I want to say 4 or 5. It's after the soft reboot, and Violet, who is the dwarf fighter, her brother shows up, and he's a bit of an arrogant asshole, and he's formed his own adventuring party, but they have a Spore Druid in the party.
Okay.
And the Spore Druid has like he's not called a Spore Druid, but he is basically, and he has another member of the party who's essentially a Myconid, but again, just not called a Myconid.
Right.
And he follows them around, and he never does anything, and he just kind of sits there. He's more of a mascot, and it like stuck some googly eyes on him, so he just looks like really ridiculous as he's waddling around, and he follows them everywhere. And all your man's clothes, the Spore Druid, all of his clothes aren't actually clothes. It's just like moles that has formed clothes on his body. He's really gross.
That's so mank. Oh god.
I think he has the thing where like if you look at his fingers, he has a little mushroom growing out from underneath each of his fingernails. It's really gross, but I think you could have such fun playing a character as Spore Druid.
Yeah, it's actually very like it's like more of a gross out than a creep out version of like what Laudna is doing in this campaign of Critical Role, where she's being
pretty much
the creepy grudge girl kind of thing. Oh
Yeah.
man, oh, I caught up on Critical Role and oh god.
I have not. I'm not going to ask you now, but remind me to ask you the thing I need to ask you after the podcast, because I'm quite far behind. But I want to know. I don't care about the spoiler. I just want to know what the story is with something I saw online recently.
Yeah, I was like 6 episodes behind, so I just read like 3 recaps and then watched like 2 episodes.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Sorry, yeah, before we got into the Critical Roles, if you're saying Spore Druid, are there any other ones that you think are like particularly good or powerful? You mentioned the Circle of the Shepherd as well, which is really good. Like Moon is the obvious one. Like Wild Shape really really good. I think it's also worth mentioning. Moon, like, even though we're not super focused on it in this one because it's basically the standard Druid one that everyone picked before Wildfire and all the other ones came out, so people are pretty familiar with it. But if you're not familiar with it, the whole gimmick of Moon Druid is the wild shape. You get combat wild shape that lets you change into your wild shape as a bonus action instead of an action, which all other druids have to do. And then you also get your wild shapes attacks. You get like improved combat wild shape. Then I think around level 8, where the animals that you turn into, the beasts you turn into rather, their natural weapons are now magical for overcoming resistances. And then, like we were saying earlier, later levels, then you can turn into elementals. And then even at slightly later than that again, then you can spellcast while in your beast shape, your wild shape, and it's incredibly powerful and strong for one reason in particular, and that is with wild shape you keep your mental faculties, and also you basically get a free pool of hit points. And the reason why Moon Druid is looked at as crazy powerful, particularly once you get to the end game, is by the time you get to level 20 as a Moon Druid, you have unlimited wild shapes. So you can basically do what, and it's quick shout out, spoilers for the Vox Machina Battle Royale, the epic level Battle Royale they did a few years ago if you haven't seen it. Just like skip ahead like 20 seconds. Keyleth won that because she just wild shaped all the time, and she'd turn into an earth elemental, they'd kill all her earth elemental hit points, and then Keyleth would pop out with her full HP and then turn back into an earth elemental on her turn, all the while being able to cast spells. Oh, and then for a kicker, at the very end when it was only like her, Grog and Scanlan, she cast a 9th level shape change and turned into an adult black dragon. And that's why druids are strong and why people like Moon Druid.
Yeah, it is like, here's the thing. I mean, Moon Druid is like powerful, but like not broken. But that 20th level ability makes it broken. Because again, as a bonus action, you're just turning into something with you're basically giving yourself 120 hit points and a bunch of resistances and all this kind of stuff as a bonus action every single time you run out of that 120 hit point mark.
And you can adapt to any terrain.
There's few things I think are wholesale broken in 5th edition. That is wholesale broken.
Yeah,
you're unkillable at that point. Like you're,
at least it doesn't happen till level 20.
Yeah, true. And to be fair, a lot of campaigns don't get that far, so and there's always the temptation of multi-classing for whatever reason as well. I would say, for those out there, I know, like, okay, when you look at the 2 in the player's handbook and you're like, which one of these should I pick? Everyone tends to go for Druid. Don't discount the Circular Land Druid. They're really good as well. The amount of spells, like, honestly, but the amount of spells they get, because they get an arcane recovery. Well, it's called natural recovery, but it works the same as arcane recovery for a wizard. You get a bonus cantrip. You get additional spells based. Well, you have a huge list of additional spells, whether it's Arctic, coast, desert, forest, grassland, mountain, swamp, underdark. You can choose any one of them and get I think it's like 8 extra spells from each, and you get them all by 9th level. And I think they're all prepared for you normally, right? Just have them ready.
I think so. I think it works like oath spells for paladins and the cleric subclass name for the spells they get that I can't remember right now.
Once you gain access to your circle spell, you always have it prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day.
Yeah.
So like, between that and being able to use your natural recovery ability, and the sheer power druids have as casters already, like, yeah, don't discount Circular Land, because it honestly it has the potential to produce stronger and I think more versatile casters than high level wizards.
I will. Oh, that Circular Land, absolutely, totally. I will pop one and anecdote in for final one for Circle of the Moon. If you were creative with Circle of the Moon and you have a creative party, you can do absolutely horrifying things to your DM, because my players developed a strategy called the Mobile Terror Platform, and that was the Druid would wild shape into a T-Rex, and then the Rogue with a short bow would climb up onto the T-Rex's back and sneak attack everything that the Druid bit, and because when it bit it would grapple it. The Rogue got sneak attack.
Yeah. And
it was just like 4d12 bite damage, short bow shot with like 66 sneak attack on it as well. It's crazy. There was also the time, that was polymorph from Shamash, but there was also the time where he turned into a shark and Do you remember hashtag haste the shark?
I think you're thinking of your campaign,
Nope.
and this was when they were in the underwater city, no?
No, we were drowning in an underwater catacomb coming out after we found the purple worms in the first campaign, and Mike was Shamash polymorphed into. No, it wasn't a shark. It was a dinosaur. He's polymorphed into like a plesiosaur or something, and we all just hung on for dear life as he like swung us out of the cave, and I hasted him so I could go even faster.
I think he was like he might have been a whale or
A dolphin or something.
He was something. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was some big aquatic animal. Yeah.
Yeah, Druids, man.
Just before that, just before that as well. When you fought the necrotic purple worm, he had turned into a triceratops, and you guys basically you were following the tunnel the worm had left, and he turned into a triceratops, and you all basically got up on him and were kind of riding him through the tunnel, and eventually he came face to face with a purple worm and triceratops with a bunch of like paladin, monk, rogue, all this on his back, and you basically went to town on this purple worm and killed it.
I nearly got 8 there. That was scary, but like. I want to see like a party at some point do the full like Power Rangers, all of us combined thing with a druid, where the druid turns into a dinosaur, and they have like specific armor and platforms built to put on the druid in the dinosaur form, and it's literally like Mad Max style. You're all like riding on a T-Rex as it charges across the fields towards like the Witch Coven or whatever.
Depending on the setting actually that you decide to do, if you want to do something a bit more unique, depending on the setting, and if your DM is like has dinosaurs in their world, you could be like, oh, I'm going to play a lizard folk who's from wherever the dinosaur place is in my world. So maybe you make a deal with the DM at the start, and you say, okay, all the dinosaurs that exist in the player's handbook and stuff like that, that's the extent of my polymorph, not polymorph, my wild shape list.
Yeah.
And like I can only turn into new animals once I encounter them in the campaign, because I've only ever seen dinosaurs in the place I come from. But again, you're a lizard turning into big lizards, which I think would be kind of fun.
That'd be very cool. Yeah, I do love the idea. It's very like doing the Tabaxi Blood Hunter to turn into like big buff tiger man, like start out like a Thundercat style, where you go the lizard folk druid, and you like turn into like giant T-Rexes and stuff like that, and be like, yeah, I'm not a dragon, but I'm close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. One last thing, Conor, I thought would be cool, would be fun to talk about, would be, and I think we kind of half mentioned it, but like druids were crazy, like they're strong now, but from what I understand of the 4th edition druid, the 4th edition druid was a party in itself. It was your like mage, healer, tank, frontline, DPS support. Like,
it's hard to imagine, because druid in 5e is really, like I said, it's really good. It's one of the better casters. It's because it gets healing, it gets damage, it gets utility, it gets loads of stuff. And then you get wild shape, which is it's a fun ability on top of that. And depending on your subclass, you might get like wildfire spirit, or you might get your spore effects and all this other stuff. They're really, really good. So it's hard for me to conceptualize that they were more broken in 4th edition.
Apparently so, from what I've heard on like YouTube videos and stuff. They like that's where the meme came from, of the like, that's your druid is your tank, healer, DPS, frontline, support, mage, like spellcaster, blaster, healer, like also, which is kind of how I feel about paladins in this edition. They're very much jack of all trades kind of thing.
Yeah, I said that before. Paladins are like, the only thing they really aren't good at is range stuff. But even now, you can take the optional class features. You get like a druid cantrip as your fighting style, and then you can just have, using your charisma, which would presumably be good anyway, you can use ranged spell attacks instead. So you're not like ranged weapons. Again, paladins aren't good at, but they are easily one of the most powerful. I would say they're probably the best class in the game.
I'm biased, but yeah.
Well, like because I've run for them as well, but I mean, they have so many good abilities. They buff their party. They get a good list of spells that they can change out daily, and then other spells they get just naturally
immune to fear.
Immune to fear. They also like the fact that this is a Druids episode, so I don't know why I'm talking about this. But the fact that they have a lot of healing spells. They don't need to use any of them, because you also have Lay on Hands, which is just a huge pool of hit points you can distribute as you see fit. But they're that's easily the best. We'll talk about paladins at some point in the coming weeks, I guess.
But there was because we are planning on continuing doing our kind of class series that we've started here with warlocks and druids. But like the reason I suppose Connor's bringing up paladins here is to equate it back to druid, because druid, I would say, even though it's not apparently the level that it was in like 4th edition or 3rd edition or whatever, like you can still use a druid to like fill any holes in your party composition, for lack of a, like, I don't like it's not like League where like you have to have this and this and this and this and this and this. It's like D&D. Like D&D is, again, you play whatever you want, don't necessarily worry so much about composition of your party, but if you want specific things, there are certain things that are like generally good to have. And like what I like a lot about druids is if you don't have those things, like that meme I said to our D&D chat earlier, was like when you build a party and nobody takes and there's no clerics or healers, and it's just like apes together strong.
Yeah,
yeah. So that's our party. But like if you have a druid in there, you can go, like if you have a druid in there, and let's say maybe everyone picked like whoever wanted to be a spellcaster or like something squishy, like maybe it's like a rogue, a monk, like a bard and a druid. So you've no real tank per se.
Yeah.
Like you don't have like a martial class with a high tier hit die. Like I think the highest level hit die in that is like a D8 with the rogue. I'm pretty sure.
I think rogue and I think
druid,
get druid, or rogue, druid and monk all of D8s, I believe.
Yeah, so those are the highest. Like there's no D10.
Maybe, actually, now I think about it, actually, I think D8 for, I think all of D8s.
Oh,
including bard.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking. Oh, yeah, it's the other spellcasters have like D6s. But
wizards have D6s, yeah.
But like if you need a tank,
infamously.
Oh yeah. That here they have D6 hit dice because they get to throw the fistfuls of D6s at enemies later in the game. That's the balance. But yeah, with a druid, if you don't have a tank, you're, oh crap, we don't have a tank. Giant ape. Okay, now I'm a tank and I'm a heavy melee damage dealer. Oh, like we need to we need to get to the top of this mountain. I will polymorph or wild shape into a giant eagle, and I can take each person up and down in individual trips. And if I do it as wild shape, I can probably do it, stay in this form for like 3 hours because I'm a druid, and it's like to do with my wisdom modifier. Like there's lots of holes that druids can patch, and I think that's probably one of their greatest strengths is their versatility. They're like paladins in that way. Like the only thing they can't do, the paladins can do really, is the melee stuff, but they can kind of cover that with their wild shape as well.
Yeah, no, I mean that's I mean, like you said, that's very much it. And the thing is, like, you don't need to build your druid in a specific way either to kind of, you can definitely gear a little bit more one direction or the other, but druids, because you get to change all your spells out daily, if your druid is the healer today because they took Revivify, they took Healing Word and Cure, I don't know if they Healing Word, they get Cure Wounds.
Cure Wounds for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and if you chose all those today, great. And if tomorrow you're like, oh, we're not going to be doing much fighting, so we don't need healing, but we will be doing a lot of traveling, great. I will take Transport via Plants. I'll make sure I have Polymorph or Wild Shape available to turn into a giant eagle and carry you guys places. I'll have like Commune with Nature, so I can ask the environment, are we going in the right direction and stuff like that. And then the next day you might be like, okay, we're going to go and do a combat now. But we bought a ton of health potions, so we don't need a healer. We just need you to be DPS now. Great. I will take all the damage spells. I'll conjure in extra animals to help us.
And ruin the DM's life.
And ruin the DM's life. I actually just think that'd be so much fun for the concept I was talking about, to just summon in 8 different like swarms of rats and then be like, okay, well, one, you can roll them all into initiative if you want, Dungeon Master, but I do not recommend it.
Also, I brought my own minis. Here you go.
Yeah. I literally have them numbered on the bottom. I go one, so I know which one is which just by looking at them. And I track all their health myself. I'd make sure they're all tracked. But then it would be like my turn. I'm like, okay, my druid cast this spell. Okay, cool. And I do this much damage. Brilliant. Okay. Now, the first of 8 swarms of rats does this. The second one is going to go over here. The third one's going to go over here. And you just need, like, your turn is basically, I control 9 characters.
There's a specific interaction that will happen if you ever play that. And I know it's going to go exactly like this. And you'll go, okay, that's my turn. So I'm going to take my first of 8 turns. And someone's like, 8 turns? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And like you think like when fighters action surge, the turn gets long. Holy shit! Like I've 8 swarms of rats. But also, dear God, devoured by swarms of rats. What a fucked up way to go.
Yeah, and that being said, like I just think they'd be great as well for like soaking up damage and
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
Like
totally.
if you decide to harass, like some people will surpass them. Like if you're facing down your nemesis, they might not care about the rats. They're like, no, I'm coming for you. I'm
If
here to
you've
kill you
if you've 8, could you literally make like a battle line in front of the party, like a wall of rat shields?
and get them little hats that they can wear, like a little regiment.
The Museliers.
There you go.
Oh my god, yeah. But like legitimately, could you do that? Could you do like, because you know the way you can't move through, you can move through friendly creature spaces, but you can't move through enemy creature spaces. As in
Well,
like,
you can swarm specifically. You can occupy. Or sorry, it's actually it's an ability on them. It says the swarm can occupy another creature's space and vice versa. The swarm can move through any opening large enough for a tiny rat. The swarm can't regain hit points or gain temporary hit points because you can't bring.
yeah,
If you hit a swarm, the idea is you're killing one or two of them. You can't just bring them back to life. That's why they can't regain hit points. But again, like when you're getting 2 additional hit points per hit dice, these guys have as part of the Shepherd ability, they have 7d8s. So you're getting 14 extra hit points on top of 24, which is 38 hit points per swarm. And then 8 over 8 times is. So, we're gonna get some.
so ridiculous.
8 times 38 is 304 damage. All
What?
right, doesn't seem right.
I'm
8
not.
times.
I'm not too up on
It
my
is.
30 times tables.
Like it's 304 damage, and then like let's say if you're making each of them attack in a round and they're doing 2d6 piercing, the average of like 2d6 is going to be like approximately 8 points of damage. And again, they count as magical when you hit like 6th level or whatever. And then even if half of them miss, right, and you're doing approximately 8 points of damage, that's 8 by 4 is going to be 16, 32 points of damage on average a turn.
Yeah,
And
particularly
that's
in the
accounting for
early
you
levels.
missing half your bites.
Earlier levels as well is, yeah, that's nasty. That's very very
It's
nasty.
gonna it would ruin combat.
Like the enemies would need some kind of AoE spell. Like,
That do you know what, that'd be your one weakness, because if they did an AoE thing, it
Like
would likely
Burning
just wipe out
Hands?
this one. Burning Hands can hit multiples as well. Yeah. Fireball for definite. Cone of Cold.
still really
Yeah, you
cool
can do a
though.
lot of stuff with that, but I think it's a concept I'm definitely gonna play at some point.
Yeah,
I think I really like it.
That would be really fun to see. I'd be well up for seeing that. That concept. I think that's pretty much everything I had in terms of stuff I wanted to talk about. Druids. Connor, is there anything else you want to add?
No, just that I'm still lobbying for that Green Knight
Oh,
subclass.
please! It's the glare, like the one really glaring, because like nearly every other class has your martial version of it. Like even bards have College of Swords. Like,
And College of Valor, which
Yes.
is now redundant because of College of Swords, but
yeah, true. But like
no, yeah, absolutely.
but like, do you know, I know I can kind of understand why, and you know they're doing the whole metal thing. But like, you could do stuff like have druids, in almost like an Aztec type civilization, and instead of like metal for weapons, they use like, I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of this, but I think it's called the Metzalcoatl or Metzalcoatl or something like that. But it's basically like a big thick wooden handle with this kind of like a duck, kind of like a sandwichy type, two long pieces of wood, and sandwiched between these pieces of wood is loads and loads and loads of jagged pieces of obsidian. So it's almost like a chainsaw going around, and it was just like a razor sharp, like glass slicing sword, and like it would be so cool to do that as a druid. You just go in melee. You have maybe you have a wooden shield that's like covered in obsidian, and then you use like obsidian like napped like chip blades like the Aztecs did, and just go around hacking into people, casting flame blade. Like, oh, I have this really dumb idea, and I think it's really cool, right, for a druid, right? You play a druid, your party goes out and you hunt down a hill giant, right? You hunt one down as soon as you can, either a hill giant or a frost giant. Just hunt them down. Probably frost giant's a better shout. Hunt down the frost giant, right? Kill the frost giant. Frost giant will drop its very, very, very big axe, right?
Right.
Wild shape into a giant ape.
Pick up their axe.
Pick up the axe and
Go to town.
start smashing things. I also have an idea for like a druid siege weapon, which is basically you get the druid to turn into the giant ape and just start hoofing giant boulders in on top of the castle.
That works as well.
Well,
Martin,
yes, Connor.
that's very much all the time we have for today.
Awesome. That was a really fun episode, even if it did sound like I lost my sanity about 2/3 of the way in when I started talking about the mushroom network.
Good. I'm liking what we're doing with all the classes now, as the episodes and druids. I like that we're not doing them in order as well. I like just picking up the ones we have ideas for. Druids are great. Again, they're a class I haven't played, but I really want to, and I want to get that niche, unique take on it that makes it really fun. So, Martin, where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me on the internet on Twitter at So Sorry It's Over, which is in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, and also I man the Micflayers Twitter account as well, just at Micflayers Pod, also in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Connor, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on the internet, mostly on Twitter at 0.Conor, ZeroPointConor, 1N, very important. And you can catch our podcast every Friday at 6 p.m. Irish time on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, and Radio Republic. Guys, you do the outro. It's your episode.
Guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode of the Micflayers podcast. We really appreciate it. If you have a comment, question, or joke to share, please leave them below in the comment section or shoot us a message on Twitter at MicFlayersPod. We'll say goodbye from myself and Connor, and we will see you on the next episode of the Micflayers podcast. Later, folks.
Later.